We would like to begin by acknowledging that this presentation is being held on the traditional territory of the One Dish, One Spoon Wampum Belt Agreement, of the Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Anishinaabeg Three Fire Confederacy, and most recently the Mississaugas of the New Credit River, and that the eastern lands of Teat Carando, including Scarborough, are also tied to the pre-Confederation Williams Treaty. We wish to acknowledge these nations as the past, present, and future stewards of this territory. We also are grateful for the enduring presence and contributions of Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, First Nations, Inuit, Métis, who call Teat Carando home. The One Dish, One Spoon Wampum is not only a visual agreement where shells are able to retain the words spoken over it, which is passed on from generation to generation as a pact of harmony, unity, justice, and peace between nations, but also a covenant with nature's bounty. Indigenous nations were tied to a promise to take only what we need from the dish, to always leave something in the dish for someone else as well as the spoon so that future generations have the means to sustain themselves, to always keep the dish clean. Sadly, it didn't take long for these promises to be broken after first contact. We can honor that sacred promise of nations past, present, and future by fulfilling our roles as stewards of this dish today, this territory, this city, Teat Carando, meaning where the trees stand in the water, the gathering place. These meanings remind us that water gives us a means to journey, and once we are gathered, we begin to become rooted like the trees, connecting to a home not restricted by borders on a map. Home is not just a place, but a promise. And so we meet, and so we gather, and say Chimigwech, Nyawa, to all my relations, and Chimigwech, Nyawa, to all of the ancestors we come from, who have led us to this gathering of artistic truth and expression.
So a typical commute into work for me, from where I live in Ward 38, is I cross Markham Road on Rochman, and then I ride along that winding, very quiet street, which is nice, collect my thoughts, and then I find myself, just before Bellamy, I find myself at Tabor Hill. The base of it is, landscape curve and all that sort of stuff. And at the very top is a rock with bronze plaques on it, signifying what I'm looking at, what I'm standing on, and where I am in Scarborough's history. So the story of Tabor Hill is that it was discovered when the area was being developed in the 20th century. It was found to contain the remains of several hundred indigenous people. They had used it as a cemetery of sorts, because it's also a major thoroughfare for the First Peoples. And Toronto's waterfront is now, or Toronto's waterfront is a major trading route and meeting place. So Tabor Hill is a trace of that, and it was recognized by the urban planners of the time as a place to say, okay, this is something that precedes us, and it's still there now. I think it was set up in the 1950s as a park with a memorial. And yeah, it's something I've learned to appreciate and find kind of adds a bit of more significance to my ride. Like, where I ride is not where I remain, but I ride where people before me from a totally different nation have made their way, and some have stopped there for, a lot longer. That's on my way downtown, and I make my way to the Hydro Corridor over the SRT tracks, and then proceed east Sometimes I ride straight down Kennedy Road to Warden Woods Trail, and then find my way west through the river and stream trails all the way to Spadina and College. But the best parts of my ride are definitely in Scarborough, and that was a nice surprise to find a lot of non-urban routes, because then I get to relax and enjoy a version of Scarborough that maybe not everybody imagines when they think of suburbs. It's not all laid-back bungalow, too spacious for words, or I don't know. The image of Scarborough that I had before I moved out here a few years ago is not the image of Scarborough I have now.
All right, so 3847, what you do is you come out, you go, west on Lawrence, you go westbound on Lawrence. You can walk up, you could either take two routes. You could take the main road, or you could take like the back streets. The difference is, I guess the back streets is more like the scenic route, I guess. So we'll take the scenic route, so we're walking up to at least, on the main road, to at least Scarborough Golf Club. And Scarborough Golf Club Road, right now, there used to be a 7-Eleven there, but now it's just like a field. And I haven't really been around in a while, so when I saw the field, I was like, oh wow, it's a field now. Anyhow, then you swing the left on Scarborough Golf Club Road. Then you'll go on, you cut through the building, you'll see a elementary school on your left-hand side, Cornell. He went there for elementary school. Some of my friends went there. An interesting thing about Cornell, because of where we lived, his mom had to give the school a different address so he could go there. So I guess it was kind of like the better school compared to like the school I went to, which was Willow Park. So continue. You're walking behind like the Value Village. Now it's a Sky Mart. It used to be like Winners and stuff. So it's like a nice, cool brick wall that like when we were kids, we would kind of like walk along it like a tightrope or something. And then keep walking. You get to like, I can't remember the name of the street, but there's the barber shop we used to go to, Conrad's. What street is that? Greencrest? Yeah. It's Greencrest, right? So we're on Greencrest now. Continuing on, we get to Cedar Brae Library. This is right across the street from my high school, which is Cedar Brae Collegiate, which is adjacent to the mall where everyone would go hang out. And yeah, Cedar Brae Mall is a nice place. I think they did renovations recently. They got a whole nice new sign. And yeah, that's it.
So to go to this beach, you gotta get out of my house, make a left on Ingleton, go all the way to this mailbox, and then once you reach this mailbox, you turn left on Alton Towers and cross the street to this bus stop, and the bus stop is for the 129. And I take this bus all the time. It's pretty frequent. It's not bad, 5 minutes. Take this bus all the way to Scarborough Town Center, which is pretty much the middle of Scarborough. And you gotta take another McCowan bus, which is kind of silly. There's 2 McCowan buses. There should only be one. So it's the 16, which is not as frequent as the 129. You take the 16, keep going south till you hit Lawrence Avenue East. And you'll know you're there because you'll see the hospital. So once you're at the Lawrence, once you're at Lawrence, you gotta take the 54E or A, not the B, because the B will turn around. And once you take the 54E or A, you get off at Star Spray Loop, and it's at the very end of Lawrence. It's as far as you can go. And once you're there, you get off the bus, and you keep walking in the direction the bus was going, and you'll see a pond down a hill. It's a beautiful pond. It's pretty awesome. There's a lot of reeds, and sometimes there's swans. And keep going, you'll see some fishermen fishing. catching that Lake Ontario fish and under a bridge, and there you are. You're at this beach.
Okay, so I live close to the intersection of Birchmount Road and Kingston Road, and I take the 12 bus down Kingston Road westbound to Victoria Park, and then it turns right, and then it goes to Victoria Park Station. I then go eastbound to Kennedy Station. I get off, and then I take the 198 bus the rest of the way. So I go down Eglinton East, and then it turns and goes back up Kingston Road the rest of the way. And then it turns left at Morningside, and then we arrive at University of Toronto's Scarborough campus. And yeah.
Hi, so my name is Brian, and I live on Mondeo and Ellesmere, roughly. So that's roughly right in the middle between Birchmount to the west and Kennedy to the east. And the stretch that I'm going to be talking about is the stretch roughly between Birchmount to about Markham Avenue. That's covered by the 95 bus line, which comes in all kinds of alphabet flavors, A, B, C, through to E. And then 395 for the Blue Knight, and that's a special bus too. So the reason why I'm talking about this route is because for a stretch, I was a volunteer with the Toronto Distress Centre, and they have an office in Scarborough. And Distress Centre is, it's the organization where they run the phone lines where when people are feeling at potential risk to themselves, when people are feeling bad, sometimes when people are just lonely, they can call it whenever, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It's a good organization, great people, does a lot of good work, runs on a shoestring budget, but they're there. So anyways, that stretch along Ellesmere is, I think it's one of those roads that, it was designed to be a major route, but it wasn't necessarily designed to be an arterial road that it seems to have become. You've got Lawrence to the south, which is super busy. It's kind of becoming known as a foodie destination. You've got Shepherd to the north. You've got the 401. And then you've got Ellesmere, which is, this main road, but busier and busier each year. And so from Birchmount, let's see, on Birchmount, there's the Cornerstone, starts with a K. It's my local, it's a nice place, family run. You get to Kennedy, which is a major road with like a lot of discount furniture stores, a lot of electronic stores, and also where you can hop onto the sad Scarborough RT, which has a worse reputation than it really deserves. But, it's got its issues. That RT, takes you down to Kennedy Station, which is the connection with the subway, as well as to points further flung. Then you keep on going further east, and you get to, I guess, between Brimley and McCowan, and that's where you get Scarborough Town Centre. And Scarborough Town Centre, people know it. It's like the main mall in Scarborough. And they've been trying for decades to try and make it kind of like the government and cultural and maybe commercial center. If they do the one-stop subway, if they do the subway, we'll see how that goes. But the thing is, like, if you actually look at Scarborough Town on the map, it's only like 1/3 of the way into Scarborough. Scarborough is like a huge geographic area. So they say center, but we can argue about that later. Then you go further east from McCowan, and for me, that's just kind of dead space. It's where I'm on the bus, and I'm just not paying attention. Right? There's stuff there. I just don't know what it is per se. There's a bunch of signs. I think there's like a garden store. I think there's a bunch of kind of like low density food manufacturing places. But yeah, I mean, it's stuff that if I saw it again, I'd recognize, but I couldn't really tell you offhand what's there. And then you get to the corner of Ellesmere and Markham. And Ellesmere and Markham is a pretty big intersection. Most of Scarborough is low density, like low density residential, low density commercial, low density industrial. But this is one of those places where you actually have, a 10-story office building, which not super impressive, but it is what it is. And in that neighborhood, you've got like Centennial Rec Center to the south, which is a nice little community gym and pool. It's considered a priority area, so it's free of charge, which is fantastic for the neighborhood. In the strip mall itself, you've got like a Popeye's Chicken, you've got a Coffee Culture, you've got a Hakka Legend, Hakka being like Indian Chinese food. I think is a pretty specific Toronto term. My friends love it. I'm meh. It's like you take the most mediocre of Indian food, you take the most mediocre of Chinese food, and you mix it together. Not really my thing. Then you've got like a bunch of stores, hair products, barber products, a laundromat, like an actual coin laundromat. You don't see too many of those these days. And then, of course, there's this office complex that has a bunch of social services, community services, medical center, etc. And so, I mean, one of the things that I'd say is really interesting is just kind of how much your emotional state changes your perception of an area, of a neighborhood. When I was volunteering for the distress center, the calls kind of range all over the place. Sometimes you get some kind of like delightful conversations with little old ladies who are just looking for somebody to talk to, and that's nice. Kind of puts a smile on your face. And then sometimes you've got people who are dealing with a lot heavier things, and yeah, life is rough sometimes. And so sometimes you're coming out from an overnight shift, and it's February, and the weather is horrible. It's cold, it's damp, it's dark. You've just pulled 12 hours, and suburbs are not necessarily the most prettiest of places sometimes, and especially suburbs in a Canadian winter. And it just kind of comes across, especially at the dead hours of night, there's nobody around. It's a little bit post-apocalyptic, it's kind of like, it's like those scenes of what happens after the neutron bomb's gone off and all the buildings are there, but no one else is. And then you've kind of got those times during summer. Toronto summers are kind of glorious, partially I think just because you're just trying to jam so much into it while you can. And that's a completely different look on the area, especially during the day. Let's say 4 o'clock, 5 p.m., people are coming back from school, people are kind of picking up things for dinner, people are coming home, and you really get the sense of the energy that happens once people fill a space, right? People are on the roads, people are on the buses, people are walking back and forth. That's what makes the neighborhood, right? It's not the geography, it's not the physicality, it's the people. Yeah, so that's basically my route. That's the 95. Goes from York Mills all the way out to like Pickering, I think. But the stretch that I know, roughly Birchmount to Markham, stopping grounds.
Sa bahay ko, lalakadin ko yung Chillery. Sa Chillery, pupunta ako sa Strode. Iintayin ko yung 21 at magsakay ko yung bus ng 21 at kanan ako sa Eglinton at diretso yung kalye sa Kennedy Station. Yeah.
Okay, so as soon as I exit my building, I'm gonna have to turn right, walk about a minute until I hit an intersection on Finch and Birchmount, and then I'll have to cross the street on the left to wait for a bus that's either 39 or 199. Usually I like waiting for the 199 because it's express and it takes me to another intersection a lot faster. And as soon as I get on the bus, it's gonna go on Finch, and I'll have to get off at Finch and McCowan. And then after I get off at Finch and McCowan, I'll have to walk straight ahead until I'm on McCowan. And then I'll have to wait for the bus there, that's 129. After I get on 129, I think I have to get off at McCowan and Stylls after when it hits Stylls. And usually I like waiting after it crosses Stylls because technically that area is still in Scarborough and I don't have to walk an extra crosswalk to get to my destination. And from there, I just keep walking until I hit where I have to go. And that's it.
So the story begins in the Highland Creek neighborhood, not far from the University of Toronto Scarborough, where I study. And it was a late night. I had just come from a shift at work, and I was really, really feeling good, just a great energy in the air. And I told myself I wanted to channel that into something inspiring. And I sat down to make some music. And about halfway through, the power went out. And I lost what I was working on, and I was just still in a great mood. So I told myself I was just gonna go skate my neighborhood. And I normally make the same route every time, if not just in reverse. So I leave and we start on Pony Meadow. And I always slowly make my way out on Grey Bark and just wind out into Good Road. Then onto Calverley. And then I go from Calverley onto Canmore, where they have the smoothest patch of road. And I always look forward to hitting this patch just so I can just tear off with my skateboard. But this one particular night, I don't know, I just got this vibe, like something was off, even though I was still riding this really, really good energy, this very creative energy. And I just still pushed on. And now I'm getting by the school. I passed the one where I had studied at, Moorish, and I make my way closer to Cardinal Leger, which is just across the way from it. And I'm making my way down this path, and then I just see this light off into the distance, not blue and white and red, just red. And it's just on, steady. And I'm thinking to myself, what is that? And I'm starting to get like a really, really bad sinking feeling. So I skate maybe, I want to say like 20, 25 meters away from it inside the, but there's like a lot behind the school. I make one circle of that lot and I just said, nope, not feeling the vibe. So I turned around, and on my way like out, something told me just turn around. You know, I had my headphones in. I always skate with music, so I'm just completely distracted and free and in my own space, but something told me that something was like trying to get my attention. And I took out my headphones, and there's a police officer just yelling at me. Hey, asshole. Hey, asshole. It's like first words I'm hearing from this guy. No hello, no where you going, nothing polite. So I'm like, kind of me? Like, you know, so I get off the skateboard and I'm slowly making my way to him. He's quickly making his way towards me, and immediately I was like, oh, something's like wrong. You didn't hear me calling you, asshole? No, sorry, sir, I had my headphones in. I can hear you now, though. Is there something you need? Yeah, I'm talking to you. He said, you need to stop when I'm talking to you. He said, don't be skating away, doing all these fancy tricks. I said, no, sir, I honestly didn't see you there. I was like, yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm interrupting something. I'm just gonna let you get on your way and do what you're doing. So I turned around to leave, and then he grabs my arm. And I'm immediately like, whoa, I'm well learned enough to know that that's like assault. Like you're not my homie. I'm not asking for you to touch me. I didn't technically do anything. So I'm like, let's see how this plays out. Because if you think you have a just cause, then we're talking something different. And there was no probable cause. Nothing really good came out of this, because it just started to spiral into him pushing me onto the cop car that was like 20 feet away now. He just walked me back to it. And I really thought this was all a joke. I'm like laughing, I'm trying to make jokes with him until he like tried to push me on the car, and I'm like, oh, you're serious. Like, so I kind of flexed, I tensed up my body, still in the same spot. We're just behind the school, and I noticed like nobody could see us. And I guess the one thing that went through my mind is like there's a field in front of me, and like a couple of years ago, somebody had actually been like murdered in this field. And it was just something that like kind of ran through my mind, like this could happen to me. So I flexed, trying not to be pushed up against the car. And then the cop just like, why are you resisting? Resisting what? Then he just let go. So I immediately am in my mind thinking like, I don't think you had any real reason to be this aggressive. I think you're just testing the waters. And I really tried to talk to him, and I asked, I was like, well, why are you yelling at me? Like, let's speak civil. No, don't give me that civil crap. And I said, oh, I think this is about something else then, Because I'm really just saying, let's be like gents about this. Let's be cordial and use like speaking inside voices, even though we're outside. But yeah, I guess the situation just escalated to the point where one cop became 8, and I guess the whole situation just really made me think about my neighborhood differently. I leave and I couldn't even finish the route. Like I just went to this space that I never go to, sat in front of somebody's house, called everybody I know. Nobody was picking up. And my great night just went immediately down the loo. It was just horrible. And I sat there for like 30 minutes, and then I just went home and just tried to sleep it off. But I remember the cop's name was John Gallagher, and I've been trying to figure out, I guess it'd be more of a conversation, like really, because he's the individual who came and had the more aggressive cop relax. But then I guess you get to watch this culture of like, you're easily there enabling the cop by, not coming forward with this, by just letting the complaint sit in the drawer. So it was just a really interesting experience because it happened in my own neighborhood. But I guess, 2 weeks later, I'm same situation, just skating home, getting a tripod, and these 2 OPP officers jump out of like a Corolla, like not even a black on black kind of low-key stealthy car. It's just a Corolla. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how many people are you doing this to? Like, I go to U of T and my brother's like, pre-law. I feel like I know enough of the ropes to at least do the dance. But I just think about so many people who like, you're just playing with. Like, it's just a test. Like, it's like a quota, and maybe because I don't look like I belong in the neighborhood, perhaps. I don't know what it is that I could get tested. Yeah, maybe it's just that I don't look like I belong in the neighborhood, but I did have a real why me moment because I lived there my whole life and never had it happen until it happened twice in, 2 weeks. Yeah, pretty jarring. I just skated the same way back home.
So my travel to an important place for me would be, I would walk down on Birchmount, then on St. Clair I would catch the 16 north to Scarborough Town Center. I would travel on the bus listening to music. On this route, it would take me directly to McCowan and Ellesmere, and when I get off McCowan and Ellesmere, I would usually just go drop by the Tim Hortons for, a nice coffee, I'm real Canadian. And then I would then just go through the Frank Faubert woodlot and go to a very important place for me, which is the YMCA, the Scarborough YMCA. It is a place that I've like grown up in and took swimming lessons, and I've just kind of found a lot of values and missions from the Y that I carry now today. So, yeah.
I guess let's just start from the beginning. Mother Teresa, Blessed Mother Teresa back then, BMT, 40 Sewell's Road. That's where it all started happening. I can just like start a story of a regular lunch break that me and my homies would have. So starting from school, we would cut through the soccer field to get to the library, because during winter time, it's where we warm up, where we congregate, where we decide how we're gonna spend our lunch break. And if we do decide to grab food, we continue on to cut through the back of Malvern Library, from the hockey arena side. And there's an alleyway in between two buildings over there that you can cut through to get to a parking lot just right across the street from Malvern Mall. So basically a shortcut. That's where we would grab food, chill, and after grabbing food, we would usually go back to the library, to the community center. That's when we would debate about hip hop, create. I feel like that's how my passion for music was rejuvenated, because when I came here, the sound that I was into wasn't really that popular, and you know, it was kind of hard to fit in, but the community was surprisingly very welcoming, and as opposed to all the quote unquote warnings that I got from my titos and titas from back home before I left. But yeah, that's where it all started. We're in Block.